Friends, welcome back. When there's badass video or articles, I got to do a badass video. Let's get going here. I want to go through this with the fine-tooth comb. We also have an individual in our forum that has a strong liking towards a certain content creator that provides a lot of misleading information, and I would like to help clear the air on that so there's no misunderstanding. So there's a certain content creator out there that, kind of goes by the name of something 26. Okay. And that content creator, Mr. 26, does a lot of misleading. Mr. 26 has talked about floating the Iraq dinar. Okay. Not going to happen, can't happen, won't happen. Again, that tells me that that individual is very uninformed, uneducated in this. Okay. That individual also talks about removing the zeros from the exchange rate. Completely misleading information. Okay. The Iraq dinar is not going to float, and zeros, the phrase of removing the zeros has nothing to do with the exchange rate. Zero. Removing the zeros only has to do with the currency itself. Let's talk about it. In fact, let's just start by reading the title. Time to remove the zeros from the dinar. Boom. The title tells you everything you know about the phrase of removing the zeros. What exactly does that mean? Again, it has nothing to do with the exchange rate. It means to remove the zeros from the currency. Well, again, what does that mean? What it means is the large, and normally they use the phrase of removing 3 zeros. Notice how the currency notes have 3 zeros in them? It means to remove or phase out, withdraw currency notes with 3 zeros and replace them with notes that don't have 3 zeros. So that means a 25,000 note gets replaced by a 25 note. Okay? A 100 note would become a 1. All right? A 10,000 becomes a 10. 25,000 becomes a 25. 50,000 a 50. Anything that's below 1,000, because again, 1,000 would actually become 1. Anything that's below 1,000 becomes a coin. Okay? Like anything below 1,000 just automatically becomes a coin, which is called a fill. So that's what the phrase of removing zeros from the dinar, again, which has nothing to do with the exchange rate. Now, there's another piece I just want to cover in this that I've heard other content creators harp on, like wonderful Mr. Misleading 26, that I would like to also clear the air on. Okay. Mr. 26 has been significantly talking about floating the dinar. That can't happen and won't happen. But at first, I want you to see it in print. Then we're going to talk about what it means right here. There is no, read that right there, highlighted blue for you in print, so it's not a question or a surprise. There is no intention to float the exchange rate of the dinar. So what does that mean? Well, it means that they might float it, say, from say a $1 value or a $2 value up to a $3 value. They cannot do that. Why? Why can't they do that? Well, real simple. The currency itself, I'm sorry, not the currency, the budget. The budget is calculated off of the currency value. Okay? Because the budget is calculated off the currency value, if the value of the currency were to change significantly too much, say maybe more than 20% potentially, okay, kind of around a 20% threshold, that would force them, yes, I did use the word forced, they would be required to amend the budget. They're not going to keep amending the budget. So now, if you were to look at the Iraq dinar right now, it's going to remain the same way it is right now as it will after the rate changes. Well, okay, so how is it structured now? Very simple. The way it's currently structured is called a managed float. That means it can only change plus or minus 10% per day in a tight, narrow window. It can't go plus or minus 20%. Okay, again, it's around 10% daily. And the reason why they do that is because the budget is calculated off the currency value. If it changes too much, it would force them to have to re-amend the budget because the budget is simply calculated off the currency value. Okay? So that's the reason why it can't float. And I also wanted you to understand of what removing the 3 zeros means. It doesn't have a damn thing to do with the exchange rate. The title states it for you very clearly. Time to remove zeros from the dinar, meaning only the currency. In other words, phase out like a 25,000 note and replace it with a 25 note. Now, those of you that love to run down good old Lop Road, I highly recommend you take the time to understand that all of this has to do and is based on a country's inflation. Iraq has very low inflation. It's extremely low. So what does that mean? Well, that tells you exactly what they're going to do. If they have little to no inflation, they're going to strengthen the currency and phase out the zeros. If their inflation is through the roof, say like Iran, they might add more zeros. It's that simple. Okay? So right now, because in this article clearly states, we're going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb. This article clearly states that Iraq has increased its gold holdings, right here highlighted in blue, from 90 to 170 tons of gold. Hold on, I've got an obnoxious dog going crazy. So anyway, they've increased their reserves, their gold reserves from 90 to 170 tons at the present time. So yeah, they're absolutely, that's Basel III compliance. They're backing the value of their currency with reserves, getting ready to revalue. And the article clearly states they are ready to delete the zeros, meaning phase out the large currency notes in the very close proximity or future. Okay? So again, what they're telling you in this, and I have older articles stating this, so it's not my opinion. That what I'm going to tell you right now is not documented in these two articles. Okay? But I have older articles from the past stating this. They have stated in older articles that two currencies, that's right, two currencies, old notes and small notes, ones with 3 zeros and new replacement notes without the 3 zeros, will coexist together for a short period of time at the same value. That means same, like the same, you could use the dollar as an example. Say they will coexist together at the same dollar value. It's that simple. So let's say the rate is $3 for simple, easy math. Okay? The small notes and the large 3-0 notes that are getting phased out will coexist together at the same $3 value. That's all that means. Okay? So no, there isn't a LOP in this. Sorry, not happening. Okay? So no, there isn't a LOP. And withdrawing a 25,000 3-0 note and replacing it with a 25 also does not mean it's a LOP. Because they've clearly told us in print that two currencies will coexist together at the same exact value. So again, if the dollar value to it was $3, a 25K note would become 75. A 25,000 note would be 75,000. It's that simple, okay? So now that we understand this doesn't mean it's a LOP, we understand that the phrase of removing the zeros only has to do physically with the currency, not the exchange rate, Mr. Frake 26. And also, the other part of this where they said it can't float, because if it floated greater than about a 20% threshold, it would force them to have to redraft, amend the budget, and recalculate its figures, because the budget is calculated off the currency value. Okay, now that you understand all of that, let's get into these articles. Okay, and again, so for Mr. 26, it's not going to float. Okay, and the removal of the zeros doesn't have a damn thing to do with the exchange rate. It only pertains to the physical dinar currency. Now, let's get into these two articles in the highlights. Does the central bank intend to remove the 3 zeros from the dinar? Absolutely. They've been setting the stage for this, okay? For a good while now, they've been setting the stage. It says, let's cover the highlights. The Central Bank of Iraq announced today, Tuesday, its gold reserves and its intention to remove zeros from the Iraq dinar currency, okay? The Central Bank of Iraq has increased its gold holdings, which again is a Basel III compliance step, from 90 tons to 170 tons at the present time. This amount of gold now constitutes 20% of the total assets of the central bank, and Iraq currently ranks 4th in the Arab world in gold holdings and 29th globally. The deputy governor of the central bank confirmed that there is no intention to float, because again they can't, the exchange rate of the Iraq dinar. So it'll be closer to a fixed exchange rate, okay? But again, called a managed float. So as not to affect the stability of the economy. Do you see right there why they're saying no intention to float the exchange rate of the Iraq dinar, so as not to affect the stability of the economy at the present time? It's not going to float because it'll be pretty much almost fixed under a majority fixed. It still will float and fluctuate a teeny tiny bit under what's called a managed float. There is an intention to remove zeros from the Iraq dinar in order to ease the burden of hoarding banknotes on the financial sector. Again, removing the zeros means simply phase out or withdraw large 3-0 notes and replace them with new currency notes that don't have 3 zeros. One more article, let's get right into it. Central bank gold reserves reaches 170 tons with intention to remove zeros from the dinar. The Central Bank of Iraq announced today, Tuesday, its gold reserves and its intention to remove zeros from the Iraqi currency. The Central Bank of Iraq has increased its gold holdings from 90 to 170 tons at the present time, simply Basel III, having tremendous reserves. Along with the other aspect of that would be the US dollar would be their other reserve, okay? Basel III means you can have precious metals and foreign currencies. This amount of gold now constitutes 20% of the central bank's total assets, and Iraq currently ranks 4th in the Arab world in gold holdings and 29th globally. Central Bank of Iraq, the deputy governor of the Central Bank of Iraq confirmed that there is no intention to float. Yep, we were well aware of that. The exchange rate so as not to affect the stability of the economy at the present time. Khalaf revealed there is an intention to remove zeros, from the currency notes to withdraw the large ones, bring in new smaller notes without 3 zeros. Both will coexist together for a short period of time, though, at the same value. Burden of banknote hoarding on the financial sector. There you guys go. It's clear as day, right? Yep, Iraq is about to revalue. Friends, thank you for joining. Have a great day. Take care. Hope that helps.